Looks like people are starting to come in. My first time listening. Your first time listening, Giggles. I love watching your channel, AK Lady. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. What do you love about it? Tell me what you love about it. You like crossing the line with M. William Phelps? For those of you just joining us, we're waiting. I have a bunch of people coming over from Patreon because my Patreon, the live was supposed to be there, and there's a problem with the audio. So I'm just waiting before I get started here with the questions. This is a Q&A, so I have a bunch of questions people have written in and posted, and we're going to be answering those questions best I can. So if you have any questions here, hi, from Italy, just joining us from Italy. And she has a question. I don't want to botch her name. I will. I wish I knew how to say it, the first name. But you know who I'm talking about. Let me just get to your question here. I wanted to answer that question first because I know you probably want to get some sleep. It's probably late over there. What time is it over there in Italy anyway? So it's 1:21. Oh my goodness. Let me get to your question right away then so you can get some sleep. So your question is there a case that's very important to you that you haven't been able to talk about for some reason? I thought about this when you sent me this on Facebook. I've been thinking about this, and there is a case. It's the case is from many years ago. It takes place in Vacaville, California. It was just fully adjudicated over the past couple of months, and the person was found guilty of murder. His name is Marvin Markle, and the victim is Deanna Lynn Johnson. She was 14 years old in the 80s in 1982, when she was her body was found on the train tracks in Vacaville, and the case went unsolved for 40 something years. It's one of those cases where everybody kind of knew who did it. At least those people out in Vacaville, they kind of knew who did it, but it never seemed that this guy was going to face justice. And then he finally, a trial date was set, and that kept getting postponed for years and years and years. And finally, as I said, over the past couple months, the case went to trial, and he was quickly found guilty. Now, he had been serving time already for a murder after Deanna's case, after he murdered Deanna. And the reason why this case, I haven't been able to talk about it, and it's something I've been involved in for, I want to say, at least 9 years. One of the stories that I want to tell about this case involves a woman named Mary Borchers. And Mary, she was Deanna's best friend, and they were on their way to a party one night, and Mary decided she wasn't going to go to the party, and Mary went home. Well, Deanna went to the party, and the next morning she wound up murdered. So Mary has felt this kind of survivor's guilt, if you will, and her story is incredible. Mary would not stop. When she became an adult, she started to pursue this case and started to investigate it. And I mean, this woman's story is incredible. So that is a story I want to tell that I haven't really been able to talk about. And I hope that answers your question. And all right, so I just want to get to some other questions here that have been written in, and I hope people from Patreon are coming over. You're very welcome. I wish I knew how to say your first name properly. I think I do, but I don't. So I don't want to botch it and insult you. But perhaps you could send me an email or something and teach me how to pronounce it. I'd appreciate that. Um, I also wanted to. Say something. Um, I have something here I want to share in a minute, but as many of you might know, um, in September, um, my father died. He was an older guy, of course, but I loved him very much, and I had just seen him, and it was a sad time. It still is. He was a great guy, but his picture. I keep his picture from the Korean War in my office, and I want to share it for a true crime reason. All right. So here's Dad's picture from the service, from when he was in the service. Okay. Take a good look at that picture. All right. And I think he was 22 then. I share that for this reason. Stop emailing me pictures of your dad from that era and tell me that your dad's the Zodiac, because every dad from that era looked like the Zodiac killer. Okay, so I just wanted to use my dad's picture in that respect, because people email me, Facebook message all the time, pictures of their dad and how sketchy their dad was, and say, I think my dad was the Zodiac because their dad resembles the sketch. Well, every dad resembled the sketch of the Zodiac back then, as proof with my dad. My dad is definitely not the Zodiac. So I just wanted to, I saw his picture and I thought of that. So I hope that clears up some confusion for people. Let me just get to the next question or comment. There was a comment made on one of my, one of the episodes from Crossing the Line on YouTube that I want to get to. As some of you know, maybe all of you or none of you, I covered the Karen Reed case. Oh, thank you, Chief Test. I appreciate that. I covered the Karen Reed case, and it's a podcast you can get for free on Patreon. It's called 34 Fairview Road. All 10 episodes are there. You can binge it. I covered that case last year, 2024. And this was in between the two trials. Okay. So there were two trials. Karen Reed, there was a first trial, ended in a mistrial, a hung jury. And after that trial, they set a date for a second trial, and I covered it on 34 Fairview in between. Okay. And I get these types of comments all the time. And this comment was left on my Crossing the Line YouTube channel here. And the comment was, hi, I was just wondering when you were going to do a follow-up on Karen Reed's acquittal. Because in the second trial, Karen Reed, as many of you know, or maybe you don't, Karen Reed was found not guilty of the major charge, which was the murder charge. And so the comment is, when are you going to do a follow-up on Karen Reed's acquittal? The second jurors' interviews on that acquittal, meaning the jurors from the second trial, a lot of jurors gave interviews. And their request for investigating who really murdered Officer John O'Keefe, all the firings and transfers of all the Canton and Massachusetts State Police officers directly involved, and lastly, the civil trials. I just wanted to ask you, because you've been noticeably quiet on these updates. I wonder why. And that is from, geez, I don't have her name. She, nameless. So to answer that, my work in Karen Reed in that case is done. I did a 10-part podcast, nearly 10 hours long. I interviewed 100 people, hundreds of hours of tape. I did the podcast. I said what I needed to say. To be honest with you, all of this stuff here is all bullshit. The jurors coming out in their interviews, it's all bullshit. To me, um, 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 the jurors requesting an investigation into who really murdered Officer John O'Keefe. There's no need to investigate that. Okay, there's no need to investigate that. Um, all the firings and transfers of all the Canton and Massachusetts state police officers directly involved in the Reed case. Well, there was a lot of misconduct on police officers within that case. There was a lot of controversy, misconduct. There were a lot of things done that shouldn't have been done. There were a lot of things said that shouldn't have been said. So, I have nothing to say about that. That's not up to me. The civil trial, we'll see how that turns out, So I have let that go. I am not one of these Twitter or X, YouTube people who just are constantly banging on about this case day after day. It's over. It's over. She got away with it. She was acquitted. She is not a murderer, according to the jury. Okay. She did not murder John O'Keefe, according to the jury. Okay. For me, the evidence is pretty clear. All right. And I go through all the evidence in the podcast. I don't believe there was any corruption. I don't believe there was, the Alberts or the McCabe's or any of them had anything to do with John O'Keefe's death. In fact, it's ridiculous for me to even say that because the evidence is so clear that they had nothing to do with it. The evidence is clear what happened. Was it murder? That's a bigger question. It's not for me to answer, but it's pretty damn clear what happened. So to answer this comment here, I've said all I need to say about Karen Reed. I really have. I've moved on. I can't live my life around one case like, so many other people. So that takes care of that comment. I hope I answered it in a way that matters. So we have a question on the board here, and that question is, have you ever sat on a jury criminal case? Come on. Never. I've been summoned many times, but I mean, as soon as I put down my occupation, I'm off. I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of jurors over my 26-year career. I've interviewed, of course, lawyers and cops and, judges, and I've sat in many trials inside the courtroom. So I know what goes on, I know what goes on in jury rooms. I know how juries are. And look, this is a good question for me to lead into another discussion that I've been kind of approaching on crossing the line with many cases. And that is that today juries are fucked up. And I think judges have lost control of juries in high profile murder cases. They've just simply lost control of the courtroom. The people that are being allowed to get on juries in these complicated cases baffles my mind. I understand why defense attorneys want some of these people, but I don't understand how prosecutors are allowing this. It just baffles my mind. And we need to get a better handle on the court system and murder trials in this country, because some murder trials, especially high profile ones, are a circus, as Chief Tess mentioned. She says, "Thank you, no more Karen Reed. So sick of that circus." That's it. It is a circus, and that circus continues to kind of travel. And I'm just not going to go along with it anymore because it's ridiculous. All of it is ridiculous. This idea that these people put up a YouTube channel or they get on Twitter and they say these things, it's meaningless. These people have no basis. Just before I came on the live, I was just scrolling through TikTok to see if there were any questions, and I came across a few videos of breaking news in the Karen Reed John O'Keefe case. There's no breaking news. There's no new evidence. There's, this is just for clicks, likes, and followers. That's all it's for. And we need to get a handle on that part of it in the courtroom. We need to develop better questions for jurors about social media. We need to maybe really take a look at their phones, see what they've been doing on social media before they're allowed on the jury. I mean, this is it's turning into a fiasco, you know. Murder trials need to be fair, and they're really there's a lot of unfairness right now in the courtroom, and a lot of that is generated by social media and lies and misinformation that people are putting out. So we need to get a better handle on that. Um, um, oh, thank you, Giggles. That's very nice of you. Um, Tamara asks a question. I hope she's here. I know she's from Patreon, but yep, there she is. Um, um, so Tamara asks a question, or is it Tamara? Asks a question. With all of the documentaries and docuseries released lately, which of your books would you like to be seen, brought to the screen? If a docuseries, which actor would you like to see in the lead? There's several of my books that are in development now, and I forget about that stuff, to be honest, because it's lightning striking if your book gets made into a movie. So I just let it be, you know. I don't think about actors or who's going to play whom. I just don't even think about that stuff because Hollywood is so messed up right now. The stuff that's getting made and not made, and TV is just it's kind of in a transformation right now. TV, it doesn't know what it wants to be right now. So especially true crime TV. True crime TV right now is in kind of a tailspin almost. The stuff that's being made, some of it is just absolutely horrible. It's very few true crime documentaries that are being made that are any good, in my opinion. Um, um, so I hope that answers that question, Tamara. Sarah asks, a really important question. Thank you, Sarah. I hope she's here. Sarah asks, I would like to hear your thoughts on the Bondi Beach and Brown University shootings, as well as the psychology of these monstrous assholes that did it. So, look, Bondi Beach that's an ideological crime, right? Those are mass murders generated by ideology. So that psychology is very complex. It's cultish, right? People are killing babies and kids and old people for what? Because they're not a certain race. I mean, that's something I don't really get into. You can never satisfy uh, both sides of the coin with your answer on that. I know the answers to it, but it's a little touchy for me to answer that. Brown University. I got to tell you about Brown University. So, remember a couple weeks ago, Brown University school shooting, right? That was on Saturday, and then on Sunday, we learned that Rob Reiner, producer, actor, and his wife were murdered by their son. That was a tough weekend. That was a tough weekend of murder. It was just on the TV. It was on the social media. It was everywhere. Murder, murder, murder. And the fact that they hadn't caught this guy yet, the Brown University guy who killed some students at Brown University in Providence was very alarming. I recall that they were up in Salem, New Hampshire, looking for this guy, and it scared me to no end, because my daughter at the time was right in the nearby town of Salem. So I don't want to say my fear was anything like what was going on in Providence or any of that. I'm not comparing. I'm just saying, for me personally, it was a scary situation until they realized the guy had killed himself and he was in that storage unit. The psychology of that guy. Well, we don't know enough about that guy yet. I don't know enough about that guy yet, but I'm going to take a guess and say that without a doubt, mental illness was involved. With all of these school shootings, you see mental illness. It's there in every one of them, and that's a product of us as a society in many ways. We could argue guns, we could argue many different social issues on it, but the bottom line is that mental illness is prevalent, and there are people with severe mental illness walking around, right? And I'm not saying people with mental illness are killers. Don't take that leap, because that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that these school shooters, when we get them, they have mental illness. That's what I'm saying. And we got to look at that. We got to study that. We got to figure out where we're going wrong as a society in order to, look, I saw on CNN. I think CNN keeps like a database of school shootings, and I couldn't believe there were 70 school shootings last year alone, or this year, one more day in this year. So it's a problem we need to really, really take a look at and take responsibility for. I don't think we're taking responsibility as a society for it. Of course, the person who does this is responsible. Okay. What I'm saying is there has got to be something we can do. All right. Now, part of this too, I believe, in the study that I've done, is kind of the domino effect. One happens, then another happens, then another happens. We saw this in back in the early 2000s with I wrote a book about Lisa Montgomery, who cut a baby out of a pregnant woman to steal the baby and killed the pregnant woman. Well, after that case, we saw several more happen. So there is this sort of domino effect in big crimes, right? That can happen. That can take someone and push them over the edge. They might be on the edge thinking about something, and then they see it and bang, they go for it. So, all right. I hope that answers that question. Lucia. Lucia makes a good point. So I mentioned Carl Reiner. His wife were killed by their son, Nick Reiner. And Nick Reiner has hired Alan Jackson, who is Karen Reed's attorney. Okay. And Lucia makes a comment. Everyone seems to have a license to create a circus and punish victims if they have enough money these days. Boy, isn't that true? So, what is Alan Jackson going to do? Well, Alan Jackson's going to do what he's done in every other high-profile case. He's going to start a media campaign, okay, a social media campaign. And what's going to happen is they're going to start putting out information, and they're going to create a whole narrative for Nick Reiner, who killed his parents. That's what they're saying. They're saying he did it. And he's going to create this whole narrative for this guy. And that's the narrative that he's going to drag into court. So jurors, beware. It's it's a sad state of affairs for me, being in true crime for as long as I've been in true crime, um, to see defense attorneys change the narrative, bring in things that are not true, that are proven not true, to get someone off. That's a scary thing. That's a real scary thing. I mean, you got to go to bed at night with that information if you're that person. Um, um, Christina Byington says, "Are you still planning on covering the Anita Byington case?" Yes, yes, absolutely. Um, I just, we got disconnected there. There was a problem. You were sick or whatever, and we can revisit that when I have the time. Right now, I'm up to my neck here in a project I'm working on now for Sony Music, a podcast that is due March 1st. It comes out March 1st, and it will be done. It's a 6-part series for their, it's called the Binge Channel. Check it out. Check out the Binge Channel. My series will be called Fatal Fantasy. It's based on this book here. As you can see, all my notes that I've taken in my own book, because I'm working on the podcast as we speak. Another thing I wanted to show everyone was this. That just came in. All right, that's a dream of mine come true. Um, it's a novel. It's a Western, as you can see, and it's my first Western, and it's called "They Came for Blood." It'll be out in the spring. I'll announce it when it does come out. But I'm very excited because since I've been a child, it's been a dream of mine to write a Western, and I'm realizing that dream. This is book one. As you can see on here, if you can see, it says a Tom Callahan novel. So this is book one. They Came for Blood. I am working on book two when time permits. It's called They Came for the Children. So I'm writing a series, a Western series. And Amy Marie says, just want to say I'm loving the newest Paper Ghost series. It has to be so hard to keep calm when there's so much corruption and liars around every corner. Yeah, so Paper Ghost season 5 is out right now. It's called The Texas Teen Murders. The last episode 8, I believe, comes out tomorrow. And it basically focuses on 2 teenagers murdered in Weatherford, Texas, in the early 80s. And that story is just wow. It's a story that needed to be told. It's an injustice that needs to be out there, and I gave it everything I had. I gave it 100%, and I'm really grateful that you're enjoying it. It's my goal with that was to get the story out there, and to point out that some cases are solvable if there's people out there who want to solve them. You need people in a position of authority in law enforcement and prosecutors who want to solve cases. And in some jurisdictions, you don't have that. So I'm hoping that, I'm hoping. I've already heard, to be honest with you, anyone who's been listening to Paper Ghosts, an update there would be, I hear that they are re-interviewing people as we speak based on what they heard in the podcast. So that's a good sign. That's a really good sign. I'm glad something's being done, because I pointed out that nothing was being done. And there's just this hush hush around the whole thing, so I'm glad that okay. So Roseanne C says, "Hi, Matthew. I think many of us would agree that the mental health care system in our country is broken. The need exceeds the available resources, and many go without the services and intervention that they require. Bureaucratic red tape only complicates things further. Based on your experiences, both personal and professional, what has been the most challenging?" It cut off. The message cut off. Sorry. So I think it's challenging. Um, Thank you, Italy. I appreciate that. I try to give 100% on anything I do, you know. Um, Case in point, I work through the holiday. I'm working every day through the holidays to get this Sony thing done. Um, so going back to the mental health care system is broken, Roseanne, in this country, as we know, and red tape complicates things further. Absolutely. Based on my experience, professional and personal, what has been the most challenging, I guess, because it cut off. Um, well, the most challenging is the red tape. It's the bureaucratic nonsense that stops social services from doing things. I've had personal experience with this. I really have. Um, you know, there's a crossing the line episode I did on on the on the Waterbury case of the man child who was kept in the closet for 20 years, right? And there's just so many mishaps that happened. You know, the principal reporting to social services that the kid hasn't been showing up for school. This went on for years, but nothing was ever done. Social services went over to the house. Now, I don't want to bash social service workers, because I hear from social service workers that their hands are tied by the state, by their bosses, whatever. They're overworked, they're underpaid, there's burnout, there's all of this. So it is a system that is broken. And what do you do when things are broken? You try your best to fix them. And I don't think we are trying our best to fix social services and the mental health care system in this country. I see it every day in my work, every single day. So I hope that answers your question, Roseanne. Yeah, and she deals with it daily. Yeah. Oh, Carrie Ann, I hope she's on here. She asked me what are some of my favorite holiday traditions. If you're into that, she mentions Voluntown, Connecticut, and Mystic Seaport. My favorite traditions, well, I don't know. Just being with my kids, you know, and cooking them a good meal and hearing about their lives, and opening presents on Christmas Eve and seeing smiles on their faces. That's meaningful to me. Um, I said I worked through the holidays, but I did take 4 or 5 hours off to have Christmas Eve with my family. But yeah. So I think that's some of those questions. I have more here from Patreon that I want to get to. Melanie Daniels, I don't know if she's on, but I hope she is. Melanie Daniels says, "Season's greetings, Phelps. I recently saw a trailer for a movie called Checked Out, and I was in that trailer. And she wants to know, is there a release date, and are you going to give up true crime for Hollywood?" No, I am not giving up true crime for Hollywood. That was I did that part in that it's a low budget horror film, and they asked me to play a forensic psychologist who teaches at a college, and they they I knew the director. I know the director, and he asked me. He had also written the script, etc. So he asked me if I would do the part, and I said, "Yeah, hell yeah, that'll be fun." So I went down to Virginia, and I shot for a day, um, and I made the trailer, and the movie's called Checked Out. You can just Google, Checked Out the movie, and you can see the trailer. That's my acting, the best chops I have at this point. Um, um, but I made the movie. I'm in probably, I don't know, 7, 8 minutes of the movie, I'm told. So I don't know how the movie's going to turn out. So whoa. Um, um, I know the person very well who's doing it, and I know he's putting 100,000% into it because he's a passionate guy. So yeah, so that's that. That was really fun. I played myself basically. I talked about serial killers, the psychology of serial killers, and I kind of, he really didn't give me the last pages of the script, so I don't know if I'm the killer or not. So, but it's certainly the trailer, makes me look like I've got some demons. But anyway, it's called Checked Out the Movie. Let's get to some more stuff here. I'll go a little bit over the hour because, I burnt everybody on Patreon. Not my fault. You couldn't hear me. I hope all of you from Patreon are here now. Sarah, that's kind. Sarah, thank you. That's very kind. I'm wondering if I missed any questions in the chat before I get to more email questions. Have I ever been awarded an honorary university degree? No. No, I have not. I don't really need one. Papers to me, degrees and that, I mean, it'd be nice, I guess. I would accept it, but it's not something I think about. So some email questions. What do you think about podcasts going to video and TV? Well, first, a little background on that, I guess. So, Deadly Women, Andy, 372. Yeah. Deadly Women. 13 seasons of that I did. I've heard now for 2 years it's coming back, but I don't know. I've heard that they're bringing it back to ID, Investigation Discovery, but it's not on yet, so I don't know. But that was fun. Deadly Women was fun. Thank you for watching. So back to that question, what do you think of podcasts going to video and TV? Well, background on that is, a lot of podcasts, I think iHeart, who does Paper Ghost, I think they just signed a deal with Netflix for 10 of their podcasts now to start going onto Netflix as podcasts on TV. I guess you'd say that. So, and then of course, Crime Junkie and a couple other podcasts are going to Tubi. So podcasts, and we can see now on social media a large kind of video component to podcasting. Okay, so that's the background of that question. What do I think of it? I want to be totally honest with you, but I'm going to contain that a little bit. I'm going to rein that in a little bit. I don't think a majority of people who listen to podcasts want to sit down and watch a podcast, watch somebody like this, just me talking about a case like, that's not what podcasting is. It's not one of the reasons I got into it. It's very intimate, right? A podcast is between me and one person, me and you, vacuuming, doing the dishes, doing your laundry, laying out in the sun, whatever you're doing, driving. It's me and you. I think that bringing a component of video and TV into it is not going to have a good effect on those podcasts that do it. Look, if they want to turn the podcast into a television program, that's a different thing. But taking a podcast and just putting a camera on somebody with a mic like this and headphones, and then turning that into something you can watch, good luck. I don't think that a majority of podcast listeners want to um, go, sit down and watch it on YouTube or Tubi or Netflix or what have you. They want to listen to it at their own convenience. They want to turn it on in their ears, in their car, whatever they're doing, and it's a very intimate thing. It's you and then one listener. So those are my thoughts about that. I can tell you that, I mean, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to film myself recording my podcast and then put that out there? I don't see any value in that. Um, um, I think there's more vanity in that, to be honest with you, than anything. But who am I to judge? Um, Another email question, and anything you can update us on in the Karen Reed case. Are you going to do a follow-up with any new episodes of 34 Fairview Road, my Karen Reed podcast? No, I'm not doing a follow-up. I'm not doing any updates. When I get on Patreon and do my live streams, if someone asks a question, I'll be happy to answer it. But at this point, I don't see myself doing anything else with the Karen Reed case. Another question is, what is this Sony music project you've been hinting at? I think I mentioned earlier, it's called Fatal Fantasy. It's going to be on True Crime The Binge channel. You'll see it March 1st. All episodes, all 6 episodes, bang, come out in one day. That's why it's called The Binge, so you can binge it. I'm working my ass off on it right now, so it's good. Everything is on time. Another question is, what's the latest on this season of Paper Ghosts since it came out? How many episodes are left? I believe there's 1 episode left, and then all episodes will be out, and you can binge the whole thing. But as I said earlier, from what I understand, law enforcement has picked up interviews with some of the people they heard on the podcast. It's going great. People are happy with it. There's been one person who was unhappy with it, and she sent me a very, very insulting, nasty text. She was a source of mine in the podcast, and the text started out, Phelps, you are a piece of shit. So, and all I'll say about that is this. When you think that your information is the only information, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. When you think your information is the most valuable information, you're setting yourself up for disappointment, because I report on all the information, so I'll just leave that there. Oh, Giggles has never listened to a podcast before. There's a lot of people. I hear this. Yeah. So I hope I gave a really good explanation of what a podcast is. There was a question up above that I want to, hey, Mr. Phelps, any further news on the Holly Perinian case? Loved your Dark Minds episode on this case. I haven't heard anything about that case. Holly Perinian was 9 years old, I believe, abducted and murdered near Sturbridge, Massachusetts, which isn't far from where I sit. And I did an episode of Dark Minds. Geez, Dark Minds was so long ago. Now, what was it, 13, 14 years ago, I did Dark Minds, maybe. And I did an episode on Holly Perinian and Molly Bish. Look, there's issues with those cases as well. There's DNA that they don't know that they have. Do they have it? Where is it? You know. Here's what I'll say about that in general, and I think this also applies to Paper Ghost this season. Um, if we all think that evidence that's collected is handled properly all the time, we're thinking wrong because it's not. Evidence is lost. Evidence is contaminated. Evidence is, you know, used up. When people hear, oh, they have DNA in the case, right? Oh, that's great. Well, what they don't tell you, or what law enforcement doesn't need to explain, there's no reason to explain it, is that when you have DNA in a case, every time you test the DNA, you lose part of it. So, and a good example of that is, listen to my original Night Stalker Golden State Killer episode of Crossing the Line. I interviewed the prosecutor who prosecuted the Golden State Killer, and he talks about this very thing. They had so much DNA in that case at one time, but they did a lot of testing, and they were worried that the next test, the DNA would be gone, because every time you test it, you lose it. So he explains this very well in that episode, the Golden State Killer episode. But stuff gets lost, stuff gets misplaced. I've been in evidence rooms in police stations and seen evidence lying on the floor, out of the bags, boxes tipped over, stuff spilled out of it, dust all over the place. I mean, I could, this is it's not like it is on TV. Okay. Giggles. Christina. Hi, Christina. Welcome. I'm thinking about looking into volunteering for the Innocence Project. Giggles says, thoughts? Do it. Those are my thoughts. Do it. Those are my thoughts. Do it. If you're thinking about it, something's calling you. Answer that call. All right. So, where we want to go next? I have more questions. Okay, that's been done. Let me pop over on Patreon and see if there's any questions lingering. I hope everyone from Patreon was able to come over. I apologize for the audio there. I don't know what's going on, but I will definitely have people look into that. I just want to say something about my Patreon page as well, here on YouTube, is that, oh, gee, thanks, Christina. I appreciate that. I'm just grateful I have hair at this point in my life. And it is real. Oh, you're welcome. I just want to say something about Patreon. My Patreon channel right now is free. Okay. It's free. And it's going to remain free until the spring. And that's when I'm going to close it up to free and just, charge a small fee a month, because I'm going to be putting exclusive content on there. So if you haven't joined, join it. It's free. Get all the content now while it's free. There's a ton of content on there right now. The Karen Reed podcast is on there. I do an exclusive podcast when time permits called Dangerous Ground, on there you can listen to. There's all sorts of stuff on there. So I just want to say that, because I feel guilty when I don't post, because some people do pay. It's their choice. I'm not asking them to, but they do. And I feel guilty when I don't post stuff, but that's why I do the lives. I want to do the lives. How do you go about picking your subjects to study and talk about? Well, Giggles, the stuff I study and talk about is stuff that I do for television and podcasting. Um, and I have just so many cases lined up in my office that I'm doing on my board, everything. I'm getting ready to start, after the Sony project and a break. I'm going to take a little break, I think, um, for at least a week. I'm going to start season 6 of Paper Ghosts, which is a case I've been working on with the family for a number of years now. And I'm going to start that, and that'll be out end of the year or early next year, season 6. So there's always something next in the pipeline that I'm doing. I have to finish book 2 of the Western series, so I'm going to take some time to do that. It's almost done, actually. I have most of it done. So if my editor's out there, don't worry. Um, but yeah, how do I choose my subjects? Well, my subjects at this point, my subjects at this point choose me. So people come to me with this case that I'm going to be doing. I 99% sure for Paper Ghost season 6. The father of the victim came to me a number of years ago. I had done something very small about the case, and he listened to it, and he called me, and we started to talk, and one thing led to another, and I started to travel out to Illinois to meet him and his family and talk about this more, and it grew from there and there and there and there, and I decided that this story is huge. This story is huge. It's a high profile case. It's a name people will know, but the background of this story, the absolute negligence, corruption involved in this case is just alarming, and it's all been proven. It can easily be proved. So that's how I choose my cases. Choose me. The cases I choose for crossing the line, people write in. I keep my eye on the pulse of true crime to see what cases I want to cover. I look for specific cases. I don't just choose anything. Oh, thanks, Roseanne. Yeah, I do. I do need to take care of myself. Um, mm, but it's would love to see your vision board. Giggles. Well, it's not really a vision board. It's a crime board. That's where I do all my work, like you see on TV. Mine doesn't quite look like that with yarn and pictures and mug shots, but I map out my cases and I figure stuff out on the board. Difficult things I figure out. So there's a lot of things on there I don't want people to see. Information I'm digging up, sources I'm talking to, a lot of sources for Paper Ghosts and the things I do like to remain anonymous. And I give them that because they're giving me great information and they want it out, but they don't want the hassle that goes with their name attached to it. So I give them that. But all the information needs to be verified. It's just, you just don't take somebody's word for it. And in this case here that I'm going to be doing in season 6, this stuff is verified by 2-3 sources. So it's a big case, and I'm excited for the family to get their story out. The dad in this case has spent 10 years chasing his daughter's murderer, and he got him. And telling that dad's story is very important to me. Telling the family story is very important to me. And the sacrifices they've all made and the sacrifices that he's made to prove his daughter's case. It's just a sad, sad story. They all are, but anyway, I think that'll do it for tonight. Which case has kept you up at night? I think I'll answer this question from Giggles, which cases kept me up at night, and then we'll call it a night. Um, um, which cases kept me up at night? Um, um, that's tough to answer because a lot of them do. Um, I mean, they don't literally keep me up at night, but I do wake up sometimes thinking about cases. Um, particularly what's kept me up at night recently is paper ghosts, is Shelley and Vincent, the 14 and 16-year-old victims in the Texas teen murder case there, Paper Ghost 5, that's out now. Um, I think the last line in the entire podcast is they deserve justice. Um, you know, so what keeps me up at night is people in positions of power, um, people able to do things, to solve cases, to give families answers, and they look the other way, be it for reasons of their buddies involved or money or whatever it is, or they're looking at their retirement and they don't want to rattle case. That is just all bullshit to me. That is all, we're talking about, we can never forget, we're talking about human beings here. I think part of true crime experience over the past 5 years or so has desensitized people, generally speaking, to the fact that every true crime case you hear involves a human being who was murdered. That person was murdered. Their family is suffering. I mean, just listen to the first episode of Paper Ghosts, season 5, the Texas teen murders. Listen to the first 30 seconds. Listen to the mother of that victim who was murdered 43 years ago. Listen, I interviewed her this year. Listen to how raw that pain is in her voice after 40. This doesn't, I think the line in there that I used in the beginning of that episode 1 was, uh, people say time heals wounds, heals pain, emotional pain. Well, tell that to someone who's lost a 14-year-old child to 2 rounds in the back of the head. Time doesn't heal that. Anyway, yeah, you're right, Italy. Unfortunately, not many people have integrity. Well, I don't know about mine, but integrity, and you're right. You're right about that. There's a lack of empathy and a lack of integrity out there, and it's growing. That's the scary part. It's growing. Um, I just want to say to everybody, have a happy new year. Enjoy your families or wherever you're going. Be safe. Uh, and as I say on Crossing the Line, be aware. When I say that on Crossing the Line, it's a catchphrase at the end of the podcast. Be safe, be aware. But I mean it. Be safe and be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of where you are, who you're with. Be aware. It doesn't hurt in today's day and age. I don't want to scare people. Crime rates are way, way down, while the reporting of crime is way, way up, which makes us think there's more crime. There's not more crime. There's less crime than there was. But nonetheless, there are things happening in the world today that haven't happened before, and that scares me. But anyway, thank you all for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time soon. Okay. I'm going to get Patreon fixed. Trust me on that. Have a good night.